All I know is that I have this new way of working where I just don't let myself overthink things. I just don't get ahead of myself. And I just kind of drift. I just go and make pictures and bring them back and then kind of see what the connective tissue is.
Hi there. Matthew Genitempo's photographs land in a space that is uncertain and psychological. Encountering his books is like meeting someone for the first time, and instead of talking about the weather or discussing what they do for a living, one is immediately transported into the shadow areas of their lives. He's presenting us with a labyrinth, not so we can discover a way out or achieve resolution, but rather he's offering us access into his inner world. It's not so easy to hold a subtle balance between the emotional and the real. If we as viewers feel we are being dragged into a murky pond of angst or grievance, it becomes disturbing and the dark and twisty stuff becomes repellent. On the flip side, if a photographer is just mimicking a style of depth, rather than actually feeling it, we quickly get bored, because we too easily crack the code. Genitempo manages to build an atmosphere by communicating on a poetic or metaphorical level. On the surface, his book Jasper is a collection of photographs of people and landscapes within a forested area of the Ozarks. But the pictures that he chose to take actually reflect his own feelings of discontent, not knowing where he fits into society and his urge to escape. I just want to draw attention here to an essential link between photographing from a very personal position and the idea of discovering one's own voice. It isn't about carving out a distinctive visual style. It's about what one chooses to photograph and how the pictures resonate internally. If one is producing work from this position, then meaning doesn't have to be explained to the viewer. It's embedded within the subject choices and the sequencing of the pictures. I just want to backtrack for a minute to an event that significantly impacted how Genitempo went about making pictures for this project. A little while before heading to the Ozarks, he had been photographing out west in a manner that was influenced by the work of Stephen Shaw, Robert Frank, and Robert Adams. He attended a crit session with Todd Papageorge and presented the pictures from his travels.
Todd Papageorge was the main critic that time. He was the visiting critic, I guess. So I laid my pictures out and I was, he's just going to love this stuff. And it just totally went off the rails. I kind of forgot everything that I was going to say. He just didn't like the work, said it was dull. And I mean, it's what I needed to hear at the time. So the recommendation from him and from the rest of the faculty was to just stay put in one place and make pictures. Photography for me at that time just equaled movement. To some people, it might not sound like a giant leap, but for me, it was just tremendous.
This type of feedback can either make or break a photographer. Genitempo's thinking began shifting away from ideas of where he had to go to find pictures to actually facing up to the question, what does he actually want to find out about himself through his photography? So instead of imposing a photographic idea onto the world, he began to allow meaning to emerge from the pictures themselves. Returning to the idea of finding a voice, once one understands that the pictures reflect one's interior world, the actual geographical location becomes less relevant.
I think it's important for photographers to mimic other photographers and to have, heroes and go out and make pictures like them. And that's all great, but you have to kind of insert your voice at some point. And I think a lot of my trouble before that was, you just that was it called? The anxiety of influence. Yeah, it was just that. I feel like I had, and it wasn't just like all of the photographers that came before me. It was the desire or thinking that I needed to do something important. So a lot of it was just kind of releasing myself from that and just completely throwing out any sort of agenda and just making pictures.
While working in the forest, he photographed without trying to nail down a concept. But his choices weren't completely random. While he was allowing space for his intuition to have its say, he began laying down threads which would develop into themes. He discovered that one picture that he had made in the bedroom of a guy called Calvin provided him and the work with a form of anchor.
The photograph that's of the interior of Calvin's bedroom comes fairly early on in the book, was kind of a table of contents for the rest of the book. But yeah, that picture to me, Robert Adams always talks about the gift picture, and that one was kind of the gift picture for me because I could kind of go off in any direction from there.
He chose to work with a view camera as part of his attempt to slow down, and he would also hang around for a long time with the people that he was photographing. The camera was always somewhere in the background, so his subjects became accustomed to its presence. When he eventually chose to take a picture, it didn't become a separate occasion or a big deal. He chose black and white because he felt color would too readily fix his photographs in reality. He wanted his pictures to land somewhere between fantasy and the real, and not be specific to a particular time or place. The fog, which is common to the Ozarks, adds to the opaqueness of the project. As viewers, we find ourselves searching for clarity and certainty, but never actually finding it. I'll focus now on his most recent book, Dogbreath, published in 2024. Again, he didn't set out to produce a documentary about Tucson, Arizona. The work emerged out of the circumstances in which he found himself. While his girlfriend, now wife, was in the city attending art class, he would go on drives through the suburbs. At that time, temperatures were reaching 110 Fahrenheit. From his car window, he watched teenagers drift through neighborhoods filled with vacant lots, dogs behind fences, and urban decay. Even though he was in his 30s while making this work, he recognized parallels to his own youth, feelings of discontent, rebellion, and a desire to escape. He said, "The kids in Dogbreath reminded me of that time when everything feels heavy and electric all at once."
A lot of my adolescence was going to punk shows and playing in bands and stuff like that. That's what was important to me when I was younger. Music and movies used to be such a larger part of our identities when we were younger, at least it kind of felt that way because they seemed a lot more scarce. When you found something that really resonated with you, it really meant something. And if somebody burned you a CD or let you borrow a VHS or something like that, it was like someone was giving a piece of themselves over to you.
There's another significant component to this book. While watching and photographing the youngsters on the street, he was reminded of the places that he and his friends had escaped to as teenagers. During one evening, he went to the last remaining video store in the city and rented a few music concert tapes that he had watched as a kid. Without really thinking through why, he began to take pictures of the screen. And he found that when he paired a few of these stills with his newer images, something clicked, and linked his own experiences and emotions from his youth with those of the kids that he was interacting with in Tucson. He began tracking down and rewatching movies that had shaped his own adolescence. Later, he would feed his own photographs through the screen and re-photograph them. The pictures add to the book's sense of restlessness and transports one into that slightly unreal space that teenagers can occupy, somewhere between reality and fantasy.
I'd like to think that the video stills are kind of what ties my youth to the youth in the book. Yeah, and the TV just kind of became its own language throughout the book.
In this project, he wanted to change the way he interacted with people and his use of the 4x5 camera. With Jasper, he had spent hours, sometimes days, with people, gradually developing relationships and waiting for the right photograph. With Dogbreath, he deliberately worked much faster. He would often limit himself to 30 minutes to an hour with someone before moving on. So in this work, he was seeking out small, fleeting truths. A lot of the pictures in the book look like they could have been made with a handheld medium or 35mm camera. So it gives you an idea of how he moved about with the 4x5.
Well, I try to move as quickly as possible with the view camera. I used to be much more rigid and, take 15, 20 minutes to get everything perfectly lined up and then, click the shutter exactly when everything was all perfect. It just didn't work for me. And had kind of told myself that I was going to move as quickly as I could and just not overthink things and try to shoot like I was shooting medium format, but with the 4x5.
Genitempo avoided creating a visual narrative in this book. He allows the photographs to accumulate and create an atmosphere. One image doesn't explain the next. Instead, they establish loose visual and emotional connections between people and landscapes, intimacy and isolation, as well as the real and the imagined. The manner in which the images are sequenced evokes an emotional response in us, the viewer, because connections are triggered with our own memories. In the final design stage of the book, he added another layer by including the words of one of the young men that he had connected with. The images and text are not directly linked. The one doesn't explain the other, but these disconnected lines add to the restless, mysterious atmosphere.
Dove was one of the boys that I met, and we made a few pictures and we hung out for a little while, and I got his phone number, and I texted him the next day, and he never responded. A week later, I received a phone call from an unknown number, and it was actually Dove's aunt. And she had informed me that Dove he had laid down on some tracks and taken his own life. I was lucky enough when Dove and I were speaking with each other. I thought he was interesting enough that I was recording the conversation with my phone. Later on, when I was sequencing everything, I was a hunch that maybe the words could make it in there, and they did. They were kind of the last piece that made it in. And Dove's voice kind of goes through the entire book, and people can kind of connect different characters to Dove's words.
The project's name has links to an alternative Minneapolis band that he liked called The Replacements. When they were starting out as a garage band, they called themselves Dogbreath. The word also cropped up when he was reading Barbara Kingsolver's book Demon Copperhead. She was referring to a particular heat and described it as the dog breath of summer. His pictures seem to be confined to a particular location, but Genitempo manages to transform them into something that reflects an emotional state shared by most young people. The pictures are able to communicate these feelings because they mirror aspects of his own character. His portraits, as well as his landscapes, seem to be unresolved, as if they are a work in progress. He provides us with enough information to make us curious, but not enough to solve the mystery. I'll end with Genitempo reading his favorite quote by Judith Joy Ross. Her thoughts on portraiture had a big impact on how he approached Dogbreath. The pictures are from an earlier project called Mother of Dogs. I hope you enjoyed his work. Thanks for joining me, and see you next time.
I have a large, beautiful wooden camera. I'm a quick talker. I can convince people in a few seconds because I'm sincerely interested in them. I'm more interested in capturing what I see in them. It's not that I want to be their friend. It's that I see their life and it's amazing, and I want to put it in an image. It's a short but deep connection. I go back to being alone, but have one more lightning bug in a bottle, one more piece of evidence as to who we are.